Guess the quote now.
Yeah, it's time for Guess the Quote, Jim. Who said about George Tenet, "You were the Alberto Gonzales of the intelligence community, a grotesque mixture of stupidity, incompetence, shielded by a genial personality. Decisions were made, you were in charge, but you have no idea how decisions were made, even though you were in charge." Who said that?
German Tito.
No. Former CIA agent Larry Johnson.
Ah.
In his fabulous blog, Give the Medal Back, George. Jim, there's a theme to today's Guess the Quote. Who said, "George Tenet, you failed to use your position of power and influence to protect the intelligence process. What should you have done? You could have gone to Senator Rockefeller or Senator Daschle or Congresswoman Harman or any number of legislators and briefed them on the truth. But you remained quiet. By your silence, you helped build the case for war." Who said that?
Alexei Leonov.
No, Larry Johnson, former CIA.
Are those all Russian cosmonauts?
Yes.
Hey, I got the...
Jim, you can probably see that I'm reading from the same thing over here, but I'll do one last bonus round for you. Who said... "So now you're going to correct the record with your book. Not so fast, George. Why don't you start by returning the Medal of Freedom hung around your neck by George W. in December 2004. Who said that?
Pavel Popovich.
No. It was Larry Johnson. Guess who's about to call on the phone right now?
Alexei Leonov.
No.
Pavel Belyayev. Konstantin Teotisto.
Why, who is it, Chris?
It's former CIA operative Larry Johnson.
What are the chances? Jim would never have seen that coming. Much like George Tenet didn't see hardly anything coming. Hi, Larry.
Shocking. Good morning. Hey, listen, you know, they say there are some people who have faces made for radio, but you guys have faces made for TV.
Yeah, whatever. Listen, I know most people are used to seeing you on my future husband Keith Olbermann's show, but here you are with me. By the way, you'll probably get to talk to him a lot more than I do because I think the restraining order has been put in place now. I actually caressed the back of his chair last night.
Floor, you might run into him.
Put in a good word for me. Tell him I'm not as big a freak as I appear.
Will do.
All right. Larry, great post. Give the medal back, George. And what a great idea. Do you think he's going to take you up on it, on giving some of the money to the troops and their families?
Well, we've ratcheted it up a little bit more. There were 6 of former CIA officers. We sent a letter to Tenet that was based on that post, but we call for him to give at least 50% of the royalties from his book to the soldiers and families of soldiers who have been killed or wounded in Iraq, as well as giving the medal back. It would be the decent thing to do.
Yeah, that's how it struck me, Larry. I know, as Valerie Plame's classmate and someone that's been in the CIA, part of it confirmed what we knew, correct? That they never had any serious discussion of any kind of not going into Iraq. He confirmed about Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney is still saying it. The stuff that he told him was unsupported. Dick Cheney is still saying it, that there was a connection between Saddam and 9/11. So part of it, but I think you're right. He could have done some. This is what's going to happen now, right? They're all going to write these books to try to throw each other under the bus, right?
Yeah, it's a little too late to start coming clean with your conscience. At least Tenet confirmed exactly what Richard Clarke had said in his book as well, that right after the 9/11 attacks, at the uppermost in the minds of Bush and Cheney and Wolfowitz was going after Iraq, not going after those who had actually caused the 9/11 terrorist attacks. So, what really irritates me and disgusts me about George Tenet in this case is he is one of the few officials, maybe with the exception of Colin Powell, that if he would have spoken up and spoke the truth at that time, he could have stopped the rush to war.
Yeah.
But instead, he chose to remain silent. He liked being, George Bush's best friend forever, as he would sit in the Oval Office briefing him each day.
Yeah, that's exactly my reaction there. I thought, they all have blood on their hands. They really do. And it's like you said, how many people would be alive today? It's sort of stunning that, what was it the reporter asked him? It's like you had enough to make a civil case, but not a criminal case, and we went to war on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's even worse than that, Steph. It is in the summer of 2002, George Tenet was meeting with the head of British intelligence, Richard Dearlove, who then went back and wrote what we now know as the Downing Street Memo. And in that memo, based upon that meeting, Dearlove said the Americans are going to fix the intelligence and facts around the policy. So George Tenet was not some idle observer in the cooking of the books. Mm-hmm. George Tenet was an active participant.
Yeah, well, and I think he also confirmed what we knew, before 9/11. Even he's finally come out and said there was much more urgency in the Clinton administration, that all the systems were blinking red, that it really is stunning when you think about 9/11.
But remember, they asked him on the 60 Minutes interview last night, then why didn't you tell the president? He goes, oh, well, you know, the president isn't a policymaker like that. You don't know how the bureaucracy works. Excuse me? Now, I know many people might believe George Bush is nothing more than a bobblehead doll, but the man sits in the Oval Office and has the power to call Condi Rice and Don Rumsfeld and tell them, hey, I want some attention to this.
Yeah,
but,
you're like, you know what, you're Commissioner Gordon. You have the bat phone. You can reach them if you...
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, and plus it's like, you know, he confirmed the other thing we knew, and that is that they were warned what was going to happen if they invaded Iraq. They were warned. You know, that part we know.
Anyone that watched that 60 Minutes interview got to see what analysts saw from George Tenet from time to time, the bully, where Scott Pelley kept asking Tenet about the torture issue, the waterboarding is torture, and then, you know, Tenet began bullying Pelley back, refusing to answer the question and deal with the facts. And also, let's not forget that even though Tenet correctly last night said there was no link between Saddam and Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, nonetheless, he was saying in February 2003, before Congress, he was talking about linkages to create the impression when, in fact, the intelligence analysts told him the exact opposite.
Yep. You know what? I think Jim Ward, my friend who I was spooning with at the time in my hotel room watching, he summed it up best. They went to commercial, and he just goes, what a jerk. He doesn't seem pleasant to work for.
I don't think that was the exact word.
I think it was something. Well, it was a little. I family-friendly that up.
Yeah.
Larry, thanks for taking time for us, honey. Don't forget to put in a good word with my future husband, Keith Olbermann, next time you're on.
Will do. Knock him dead today, guys.
All right. Larry Johnson, there he goes.
Yay.
Former CIA. Valerie Klain classmate.